It is time for the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by Renegade River and Spring Lake. And here's your host, Mike Hewitt.
Brian, thanks. Good morning, everybody. And I got to tell you something. I don't know about you folks, but I can't remember a time when we've had such winter weather this early. I've never seen anything. How about you, Brian?
It's been a while. Usually it's December, mid-December. I mean, I remember a couple of years where we get a good snow for the Thanksgiving weekend, but nothing that stays this long. It's truly incredible. And they're saying that coming into the weekend, we're going to get a little bit of relief, but that's supposed to turn into freezing rain. And I'm not sure I can see that as relief. Not really.
Where's the upside to freezing rain? And then back to winter again. I'm not certain I'm into this yet at all. I'm all ready for winter to be over with, and we're a couple weeks before it even begins.
I'm with you.
Yep, it is work. Listen, folks, somewhere during the hour today, we're going to have a call in from Wayne Kuipers, who is a former state senator, and currently he's the executive director of an organization that is working hard to cause some competition for heating and oil and the various kinds of energy rates, especially electric probably, here in the state of Michigan. And in the meantime, while we wait for him, aside from me glooming over the fact that the snow is outrageous, in fact, I'm reading Drudge right now, Snow Stranded, and it's showing, I don't know where that's at, but the picture looks like it's about 4 foot deep, so I guess I should quit whining about our 6 or 7 inches that we've got. But one of the things I wanted to talk about while we're waiting, just looking at this, have you been following what's going on in Ferguson at all, Brian?
Just a little bit about the fact that they are beefing up security because waiting for the result of that. I guess it's not a. What do they call that again? It was the.
Well, that was the police shooting,
right?
The police shooting. Now they're waiting for the grand jury to release it. But I mean, the governor there has called out a state of emergency, which will legally allow him to use the National Guard. The FBI is saying that violence is very likely, and that just is amazing to me.
So are we going to have a guest this?
Yep, we are.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
So we want to run with this and see
Absolutely.
If we get,
Absolutely.
Right. So, all right. This is News Talk 1090 WKBZ and the Mike Hewitt Show. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Who am I speaking with?
This is Wayne.
Hey, Wayne Kuipers. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Hey, it's great to have you on the show. Tell me the name of the organization you're the executive director for, Wayne.
Energy Choice Now, Michigan.
Okay, and what's the general function of what's the goal or the agenda of that organization, Wayne?
Our sole goal is to restore competition in the electric energy market.
Very, 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 very nice. What I can never get my head around, and maybe you can help me, but what's the pushback against that? Why would anybody be opposed to that?
It's called monopoly utilities.
When I look at like the big debate back years ago with a phone company, man, I think the citizens got a lot of good things that came out of opening up competition. So it seems like when we're looking at what has it been, about a 30% raise in utilities in just the last couple years. It seems like there'd be a push in Lansing for getting the agenda of the monopolies. It seems like Lansing would be bending over backwards to bring in some competition to try to arrest those raising costs.
Well, you would think, especially with the conservative nature of the legislature on both the House and the Senate side, the utilities have done a pretty good job of keeping things bottled up. They throw around campaign contributions pretty readily. They pretty much have the chairs of the two major energy committees in the House and Senate right where they want them, and that's why we've not seen any action. I think if the legislation would come up for a vote in both the House and the Senate, we likely would have votes to pass it and get it on the governor's desk. But chairs are pretty powerful. If they don't agree with legislation, it usually doesn't see the light of day.
Right. Well, you were both a state representative and then a senator, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're more than familiar with the culture that takes place there. But it seemed like it sure would ingratiate those chairs with the electorate if they would move away from their campaign finance coffers a little bit closer to some of these common sense solutions.
Well, we poll this issue quite regularly, and every time we poll it, we're in the 72 to 78% range for those who favor it or highly favor it. So, I mean, for the legislators, it's a winning issue. For the electorate back home,
right?
It would result in lower rates, and look at what's happening right now with gas prices. The United States is getting serious about fracking. There's some talk about the Keystone Pipeline and the likelihood that that's going to pass. And what's happening on the global oil market, OPEC has slashed their prices to be more competitive. Competition in free markets work. They've worked every place they've been tried. And so, there's no reason to believe that it wouldn't work in the electric energy market. In fact, those states that have deployed choice aren't going back to a regulated market. So it's working just fine in those states. And in fact, in Ohio, one of our close neighbors, they have 100% competition. And one of our utilities, DTE, is actually investing dollars in a peaker plant there to help meet demand in Ohio. They're not spending those dollars and creating those jobs here in Michigan. They're doing it in Ohio in an open market, and yet they're working pretty hard to make sure those that compete against them in Ohio can't come to Michigan and do the same thing.
And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Wayne, is exactly what you just addressed, and that's that. How do our rates compare to places like Ohio or in general our Great Lake neighbors? But you mentioned Ohio being totally deregulated. At least that's my understanding. Even Illinois is working towards a deregulated state. Is that the case?
Illinois is deregulated.
Right, and that's kind of fascinating. It's kind of fascinating because when I think of Illinois, it's the last place I think of for capitalism and competition, because Chicago, frankly, has got such a stranglehold on their governing culture. But
right.
but they've got something we don't.
It took them a long time, but they're there.
Right.
They have a fully competitive market, and you're seeing rates drop substantially. And in fact, in Illinois, they allow communities like the city of Chicago to aggregate. So the city of Chicago now is the broker for energy, and they're able to go out and shop for the best price and pass that savings on to their residents. Now,
is that something do you advocate that type of aggregation?
You bet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that at all, Wayne. I can tell you this after reading over the organization you're with in general. I'm an absolute supporter of what you're working on. Let me ask you, when I look at Michigan, one of the things that both sides of the aisle, everyone seems to be concerned with is stabilizing and securing and growing Michigan jobs. It seems like that this would have a positive impact on Michigan jobs. If I were a business in Kentucky or somewhere saying, where do I want to relocate, this would be one of my check marks. It would have to be for me to consider a move to Michigan.
Well, I will tell you that the MEDC knows full well the impact of this policy on job creation. They've had a number of large manufacturing companies tell them to get lost simply because of the rates that Michigan business and individuals pay. All this talk now about creating special rates for business, what we did in 2008 was basically de-skew the market so that business would not subsidize lower residential rates, which had been happening for a long, long time.
Right.
But now we're going to take it even further and offer special rates. The utilities say when there's choice and people leave, that means higher costs for everybody else. Well, I will tell you that same logic applies if they cut rates to business. Everybody else is going to pay a higher rate, right? Because according to them, they have fixed costs. Now, I don't necessarily buy that, but these guys talk out of both sides of their mouth, depending on which fire they're trying to put out. And up until our organization was created, there was nobody in town to really hold them accountable. So we now are able to respond very quickly when they put out lies and falsehoods. We respond quick, and we tell the right side of the story. And I think that's helped keep the pressure on. Otherwise, I think we would have seen by now the utilities actually even closing up to 10% of the choice market that exists in Michigan. That's their big push right now. So those companies that have had an opportunity to take advantage of choice will lose that opportunity.
What I can't get my head around, Wayne, is I'm looking at DTE, and you mentioned their significant investment down in Ohio in building a new plant. But from what I was able to research, they even continue or are supporting electric choice in Pennsylvania. And I'm looking at it going, okay, they're investing in Ohio, they're supporting choice in Pennsylvania, but they're continuing a stranglehold in Michigan. And I can't understand on a corporate level how they can I don't know the rationale between adopting those very conflicting positions for different states.
Because nobody holds them accountable. I mean, that would be a simple question for a legislator to zero in on. We had weeks' worth of hearings where I pointed out exactly what you just pointed out to the legislators, and it was like they were sleeping. It passed right over them. The fact that DTE was investing hundreds of millions of dollars in Ohio, creating jobs there and not in Michigan, nobody even cared.
Right. I guess this helped for me and listeners, Wayne. Tell me, if you would, explain what exactly does electric competition in Michigan? What would that mean? What's the effect of it? What's it look like? I'm trying to define it as what I'm trying to grapple for here.
Well, we have 100% choice in natural gas, and so while many of your listeners probably get their natural gas from DTE or from Semco or from the affiliate of Consumers, not everybody does. In fact, big business, who are big users of natural gas, likely would shop for natural gas on the open market. We have 100% choice in natural gas today. We're trying to get that same program established for electricity, where businesses could shop and buy their electricity wherever they chose to, where individuals could do the same thing, where communities could choose to aggregate if they wanted to, if they didn't have their own local public utility. They might say, okay, let's put this up to a vote of the people. The proposal is to aggregate all of our local residents, and we'll shop that on the open market. We'll get economies of scale, and we'll pass the savings on to our constituents. All of that would be allowed under the legislation that we're advocating for in Lansing.
I understand there's a House Bill 5184 that was introduced in December of 2013. Are you familiar with that?
Is it the Mike Shirkey bill?
I think it is, yeah. The electric choice cap. Is that getting any traction? It looks like it's just dangling, or?
Well, they've had hearings on it. But again, the chair of the House Committee on Education is a staunch supporter of the utilities. And so he's not going to let that bill go unless he's told to by leadership.
Right.
So, we had some good hearings. I thought we made our case very well. The utilities really couldn't respond to what we were saying. Right. bringing up their old tired lines. And, it had decent coverage, but if you're outside of Lansing, you're probably not aware that the debate is going on. That's the problem.
Right. That's it. And from my view, that's exactly the problem. If I didn't know you, I wouldn't have been watching to see what you were doing, and I wouldn't know. And that's literally the case for probably most people, that they're just not aware that this debate is even taking place.
Right.
And it's huge as far as I'm can see. Is there any possibility, Wayne, that during this lame duck session, for lack of better words, that it might get moved forward, or perhaps a new leadership coming in? Are you feeling any hope, I guess, is what I'm asking?
Well, our main sponsor, Representative Mike Shirkey, is now going to be Senator Mike Shirkey. So we will have an advocate on the Senate side. I think with the House becoming considerably more conservative than it was, we've heard from a lot of those new members coming in that this is absolutely something they want to see happen. So, we think our chances are improving. And so, we're hopeful that maybe next year will be the year. If we can't get something moving during lame duck, where this issue gets tie-barred to something else, we're very hopeful that maybe next year will be the year.
You mentioned something a little bit ago about 2008. My understanding is, and tell me if I'm wrong, Wayne, but didn't Michigan used to be a totally deregulated state?
Yes, we were.
I don't understand what flipped us.
Well, I'll tell you what flipped us. Governor Granholm flipped us. She had this notion that she wanted her legacy to be an RPS standard, and the utilities quickly came to the table and said, "We'll support you, but we need to restrict choice."
What did you say? She wanted her legacy to be. What did you say it was?
Windmills and solar panels.
So you mean she wanted her legacy to be a fiasco? She achieved her goal.
Yeah, in more ways than one. But that's really what brought us to this place.
Right.
At the time, we were at about 3% choice. That's okay. The market was working.
Right.
The utilities had actually made their prices more competitive, which is what happens in an open market.
Right.
But since we've closed the market, we've seen their prices rise considerably every year. We are now the highest priced electric state in the Midwest and one of the highest in the country.
Incredible. To me, it's just so counter logical to have taken the path we're on. Wayne, do you have any idea where Governor Snyder is on this issue?
Surprisingly, this is not top on his agenda.
Okay.
I would have thought, for trying to turn Michigan around, you want to create a competitive environment in Michigan. This is equally as important as right to work from a business perspective.
I absolutely agree. And in fact, in terms of overall job creation, it may actually be more profound.
Right.
Just doing quick numbers on it, I don't know how anyone could see it differently.
Up to this point, he has not been an outspoken advocate. Now, if we get something to his desk, I do think he signs it. But he's not out championing this, which I find incredible.
Okay, Wayne, I've got to go to a hard break, but will you do me a favor and stay with us for a little bit longer? Because I've got 2 or 3 more questions, and mainly I also want to find out how listeners can help advocate for you.
Sure.
Okay, folks, we'll be right back.
This is News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River in Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show. We're on the line today with Wayne Kuipers talking about deregulated energy in Michigan, I hope and pray. Wayne, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
One of the things I wanted to make sure we got into a little bit this morning, Wayne, is a couple things. We talked about where the governor is at, and I'm hoping to your point, I'm hoping with new leadership coming in and the House leaning a little bit more conservative or fiscally conservative at least, that this becomes part of the agenda. But I just can't. I'm hoping Governor Snyder sees that this is right up there with right to work and other things.
I think we lost him.
We did lose him.
Yes.
Hopefully he'll redial. I think he was on a cell phone.
Yes, occasionally they drop.
Looks like I've still got him on.
Yeah, we didn't drop the line, but okay, yep, we lost him.
We did lose him. He's gone. Hopefully he'll call back. Well, Brian, where are you at on this? Deregulated or regulated?
I guess I have to look into it further. So we'll have to go from there. But we'll have to. I'll go ahead and just pull that off there for a moment. Maybe he'll
give him an opportunity to re-ring.
He's probably not hearing us respond, and he'll hopefully give us.
He's thinking, what the heck just happened? He didn't want to answer my Governor Snyder question. I don't know.
That could be, or is some kind of a intrusion of some sort.
I think he was on a cell phone. Listen, Wayne Kuipers, I've known him for. I expect that's him right there.
Okay, yep, he's calling back. So we'll go ahead and. Do we have you back, Wayne?
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm guessing you're on a cell phone.
I am.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm traveling to Lansing today.
Okay, better you than me, Wayne.
Yeah, I'm used to it by now.
All right, I looked at Brian, who's operating the board for us this morning, and of course, when I lost you, I said, "Brian, what do you think, regulated or deregulated?" We're just kind of staring at each other. At any rate, what I was saying when we lost you is that I'm to your point. I'm hoping with new leadership coming in and a more conservative-leaning, at least fiscally conservative-leaning House, that we'll be able to get this moved further up the agenda. Do you have hopes for that, or?
Yes. I do. I think the utilities arguments, frankly, don't pass the common sense test. And so when people are talking to legislators and they sound like they're talking to their local consumers representative or BTE representative, they need to ask the question. Stop talking a minute and think about what you're saying, because you're not being logical with your statements. Okay? Competition works. Competition always works. All right? I mean, you can't, there's no debating that. And the fact that in Michigan you have consumers territory and DTE territory, they don't even want to compete against each other. How silly is that? The only other area in Michigan where you have similar policy is in cable. Right? Charter doesn't compete against Comcast. They'll tell you, well, we have Uverse and we have Dish and all those other ones, but I want Comcast and Charter to compete against each other.
Absolutely.
That would lower the price, improve the offerings, improve customer service, just like what happened in the electric deregulation of 2000 under Engler.
Right.
We saw customer service improve. We saw prices drop. The market worked, and it'll work again.
I don't know how companies like DTE can look a legislator in the eye and say, "Don't pretend that we're." It almost reminds me of the Wizard of Oz wizard when he's, don't look behind the curtain, because, I mean, they're maintaining something in Michigan that they're just not doing in other places, and I don't see the honest or the integrity side of that argument.
Well, they don't claim to be filled with integrity.
Well,
I've never heard that claim, come from their mouth. They're a regulated monopoly.
Right.
There's security in knowing the rules of your game. Okay. There's less surety in an unregulated market because they don't know necessarily where things are going to go. Okay. So they would probably take a little less percent profit, but know exactly where they're at and have their profit guaranteed, than have an open market and have the ebbs and flows of the marketplace. It's a great gig if you can get it. The problem is the consumers ultimately pay the price.
Do either of our two largest utilities, electric utilities in Michigan, are they selling retail energy to other out of state deregulated states?
Both are, yeah, both.
I mean, I just think that's just an upside down, insane way of doing business.
And in fact, we have a flyer from the state of Illinois where one of the Michigan utilities was offering a special rate for service and gas stations, and it was 30 to 50% below what their rate is in Michigan.
Incredible. And there's what if, for listeners and for people that want to try to push this along, what can people do? How do they reach out and cause some activity? The people that realize that they're getting stuck with outrageous electric bills when it's not necessary.
One, the first thing they can do is to go to our website, www.ecnmichigan, all one word, lowercase, .com. ecnmichigan.com.
Okay, ecnmichigan.com.
Right.
Got it? Okay.
And then once they're there, they can be exposed to all kinds of information that we have available. Some statements I've made, some statements really smart people have made, statements the utilities have made, which we've debunked. Anything they want will be on the site. But there's also an opportunity for them to go on what's called CapWiz. And on CapWiz, you can contact your legislator, either by email or by telephone. Now, your senator in Muskegon is going to remain the same, Senator Hansen.
Right.
Senator Hansen needs to hear from your listeners saying, we need choice. Okay.
Do you have any idea where he's at on this issue, Wayne?
My guess is he's probably not supportive, but I don't know that 100%.
Okay. How about...
And again, I would have your listeners ask him specifically, where are you and why?
Right.
And if it sounds like they're talking to a utility agent, we'll have all kinds of talking points they can get off our website to be well prepared.
Right. One of the other things I want to ask you is just before we run out of time, Wayne, is if I were a large industrial company, a big commercial user of electric here in Michigan, I'd be outraged. So I'm wondering why these huge users are not crying foul.
Well, part of it is a lot of them are smart enough to get in when they could, and so they have it.
Okay.
And if they have it, they don't care if anybody else gets it. They now have a competitive advantage.
So they've locked in. Are you saying they locked in some rates?
No, they're locked into choice. So they're shopping already.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So what do they care if their competitors get access to choice?
Right. I can't get my head around. Maybe I'm being naive, but how come a big user can have choice, but Mike Hewitt can't? Because I don't have choice.
Exactly. I mean, they're concerned about their bottom line.
Oh yeah.
Not their neighbor's bottom line. So,
right.
This whole 10% pick winners and losers.
Right.
And my philosophy is government shouldn't pick winners and losers.
Amen. Absolutely agree with that, Wayne. Well, as we go forward, I really encourage people to do exactly what Wayne suggested with ecnmichigan.com and then also to reach out to capwiz.com. Both of those are great. One will give you more information about what Wayne Kuipers is working on. The other one will lead you right to your representative. And you as long as you served in Lansing, Wayne, tell me something. Do these emails and phone calls from people really move legislative votes? Do we have an impact?
Yeah, they can. If you're using form letters, they generally don't.
Right.
But if you take the time to craft an email or place a phone call individually to a member's office, yeah, those get people's attention. You know what I always found frustrating, and maybe you feel this way having been a legislator, but when I went to district hours for my senator or my house or my state rep,
there'd be 2 or 3 people there. And, I think, wow, this representative is reaching out to his or her constituency, and that would be the opportunity to sit down with, in this case, Jeff Hansen, because he does have district hours, or in the coming new year, Holly Hughes, and look them in the eyeball and say, where are you on this, and why aren't you advancing some bills?
Right.
I always found that very, very. It's always the same 2 or 3 people when they may be representing 150 or 250,000 people.
Yeah, state senate district is 260,000 people.
Right.
A House district is right around 100,000. So it's unfortunate that out of that population, you can't get more people energized.
Right.
I mean, my thing would be look for where their office hours are. If they're doing a town hall meeting, build a room up and say, listen, this is a concern to us. We need action.
Right. Absolutely agree with you. Listen, as we get into the new year, Wayne, I'd like to have you back on once we get the leadership in place and the new chairs of these various very, very important committees, and maybe take the temperature again and see if we're heading in the right direction.
Sure. Yeah, anytime. Just get with Maureen, and she can help, schedule the 2 of us to get together.
Very, very nice. Wayne Kuipers, listen, please drive safely on your way to Lansing, and thank you very much for calling in this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Folks, we will be right back.
You're listening to News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River and Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show. On the line with me now is Sherko Abbas. Dr. Abbas is the president of the Kurdish National Assembly of Syria. Dr. Abbas, welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show. Are you with me, Doctor? We've got a bad connection, I think, Brian. Sherko, are you with me? Sherko. Oh, that's 2 times.
I guess we had a bad connection.
That is 2 times in a row today, all in one show.
I was hearing them, and then they...
Yeah, well, he's not exactly right down the street.
Exactly. As soon as he knows he's disconnected, I'm sure he'll call us right back.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He is. He's been on the show several times.
I think he's right here with us now.
There you go.
I think we lost you.
Can you hear us now, Doctor? Sherko, can you hear us now?
Hear you very good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Okay, with us, Sherko Abbas, who is the president of the Kurdish National Assembly of Syria. Sherko, welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for inviting me, and sorry for the communication issues.
No, I was joking when we lost you. I said he's not exactly right down the street, so we understand the technical stuff. Listen, I wanted to get you on for a few minutes to just give us an update. There's been, since we had John last, there's been a lot of, at least what I perceive to be changing going on in the Middle East, and I can't tell whether the United States and President Obama have changed the U.S.'s role in terms of supporting the Kurdistan and Kurdish people. Where are we at with all of that?
Well, again, thank you for inviting me. The issues here in the Middle East, as you can tell, the radical group are gaining ground, I believe, maybe a little bit setback in the Kurdish area because Kurds are fighting back really hard and trying to defend themselves and defend the minorities from Christian to Yazidis and to the Kurds and others, and frankly fighting on the behalf of the Western civilization. But at the moment, we can still see they have a lot of territories in Iraq and Syria, and unfortunately, the United States is not helping. They are helping via media and propaganda, whatever the State Department is trying to say, but in reality, all the help is going to Iraqi central government, and the Iraqi central government is a pro-Iran and is anti-Kurds, and it's not helping the Kurds. So it's very minimum assistance gets to the Kurds, and the Kurds are fighting really hard back. And unfortunately, our allies, Turkey, it's not that ally. It's helping ISIS as well. And Iran, U.S. is trying to engage Iran in that region. But nevertheless, Kurds need all the help they can get, and we need the pressure from American people to put on the State Department, to put on the White House, to really do a serious direct help to the Kurds, instead of trying to reformulate their strategy by training other Arab Sunni radical group again. And a couple weeks ago, just to let you know, many divisions from a Free Syrian Army that it was trained by the U.S., armed by U.S., they completely surrendered and switched allegiance to ISIS. So in our views, the State Department now is trying to create another strategy to train another group and repackage it and call it another moderate. It is not correct. The only boots in the moderate are the Kurds. The only people who are fighting ISIS are the Kurds, and they should be supported. And we need your listener to really talk and contact their representative to put some pressure on them to help the Kurds.
What I don't understand about my own government, Doctor, is all of the Western world and including most of the citizens in America have been asking for years, where is the moderate Muslim and why aren't they standing up and fighting? And I say they're right in front of us. That's who Kurdistan, the people, are. And I just can't get my head around the idea that we're refraining from boots on the ground. You folks have boots on the ground. You are the moderate voices there. You are looking. I've teased you in the past on the show, but when I read your stance for government, it looks like Thomas Jefferson wrote it, and I can't imagine why in the world the United States government wouldn't be in there backing you. I don't understand that at all.
Well, I mean, these are the things, either it's naive or stupidity or both. I mean, we're not sure, really. Honestly, I think the State Department, we know it's not that naive. Many professional people work there. And we got to believe there are some other reasons why they're not helping. And we can only conclude that a lot of Arab petro-states, from Qatar to Saudi Arabia to Kuwait, and frankly to Turkey even, those are the nations in that region influencing U.S. State Department to have a strategy that it's contrary to the interest of the Western civilization, to American interest, to the value that we believe in, as you mentioned, Jeffersonian values. And as an American speaking, as a Kurdish American as well, we need this administration to act. Just Al-Qaeda, if we saw Al-Qaeda as a threat, Al-Qaeda is moderate compared to ISIS.
Right.
So why we're not doing anything?
It just, when I look at it, and to your point, where it seems like they're almost grappling, like they're in desperation mode. At least that's my interpretation. And I agree with you. They're professionals. Certainly they're not naive, but nevertheless, it looks like they're in way over their head. And I say that because they're reaching out to groups, say, look, this group has been around for 6 months and it's really moderate. And I'm going, no, they're not. And not only that, but the Kurds have been there for throughout millennium and have been very, very documented over the years as being pro-Western, and even if not pro-Western, let me back away from the global terminology and say your folks have been documented as being very tolerant and open to things like local sovereignty and individual respect. To me, it's a no-brainer, Doctor.
And this is why we question the administration, why you're not helping engaging the Kurds. And always they tell us, forget that you're a Kurd. Think as an Iraqi. Think as Syrian. Think as another word. They do not want to really shift from the current Sykes-Picot agreement by maintaining the status quo, the borders of those nations, and resulting in denying of the freedom and democracy and the rights of the 40 million Kurds in that region that they've been denied and deprived of their simple, basic human rights in Syria, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. The State Department is more interested in helping 3-4 million Palestinians that, as you can see, they're attacking and slaughtering people in the synagogue and other or even ISIS attacking and killing Yazidi Kurds and Christians and beheading people. The U.S. government is always, during this administration, always on the wrong side, supporting the wrong side.
I know, but I agree with that, but I just I can't fathom why. I can't. To me, it's not in the best interests of the Kurdish people, obviously. But our government's job is to defend the United States, and taking a side against the Kurds or allowing the Kurds to drown, that does not serve the security interests of the United States. And there's history to it. The history documents that as a fact, not just Mike Hewitt's opinion. But one of the things that in a conversation you and I had some time ago that you had mentioned, it stuck with me a lot. You talked about having an individual family living on grounds for, I can't remember the term, 400 years, many generations, and suddenly being labeled as an illegal immigrant on their family grounds for generations. And I wonder a little bit if the United States government doesn't know how to grapple with the end game, which would be a sovereign Kurdistan.
I mean, this is a good, interesting point. Like Syria, it was just created after pretty much World War I as a nation, independent modern-day Syria. And our family history, and we have deeds that they were going back to Ottoman Empire, almost 400 plus years.
Right.
Just my family, to give you an idea. But even forgetting about this and going back to many Medians and Harriet and other earlier days, the Kurds been there for 2,000-3,000 BC in that region, and now the U.S. government is trying to preserve the interest of 22 Arab nations. And this is really wrong. The United States should really stay on the right side and on the just side, and the only people really, the Kurds should be the one, and they're the one intolerant, going back from Cyrus to modern day. Our Kurdish leader in Iraqi Kurdistan were helping thousands of Jews flee Iraq and Syria to Israel. So we have no problem with any religions, from Christianity to Judaism to Islam. And this is the interesting thing. Maybe that's the main reason the Gulf states like Saudi Arabia does not like the tolerance, and where we promote the tolerance. Right. We coexist, and they are on the opposite. And in fact, they're the one also helping in training the so-called Free Syrian Army, where, in our views, many of the radical are from the same school of Saudi teaching.
I was told, Doctor, that, and by the way, the statement repulsed me, but I want to share it with you. I was told that the reason our government doesn't want to remove some of these stronghold men from power is that the folks in that region cannot handle a Western-style democracy. What do you say to that statement, Doctor?
I think this is absolutely absurd and wrong because the reason we don't give chance to democracy, we always trying to replace one dictator with another dictator. Right. And we always try to have some groups oppressed. So the best system we have in America that works, decentralized, let people rule themselves within those municipality or regions. And this is the best formula because when the people have something stake in there, as their stakeholders part of this process, I think things will work much better. Today, when we're trying to bring in Syria, as an example, we have more than 4.5 million Kurds in Syria alone. So when they're trying to create preserve Syria as a republic. They call it Syrian Arab Republic, and deny 4.5 million people that exist on their rights. And it's very difficult to keep Syria together in peace forever. So it is the only people who want to keep dictators. They say that in reality. Let's look at it. The first Jewish rabbi was a woman, Kurdish woman in that region.
Right.
The tolerance of Jerusalem, allowing the Christian, Jews, and Muslims together, was under Kurdish leadership. Right. Freeing the Jews by Cyrus the Great, which is a Kurdish leader. So the democracy started in the Cyrus democracy cylinder. Is right now, I think it's touring the U.S. So those are the elements from that region and the civilization from that region. We don't give it a chance. We only allow the savages to come and take control.
Absolutely.
And this is not right.
It seems to me that some folks confuse the concept of having a free and independent Kurdistan with the rebirth of an Ottoman Empire, which they want to refer to as a caliphate. And I don't think those three things equal each other. Am I wrong?
You're absolutely right, and in fact, they're contrary to that fact. The Kurds are not that way, and we have not even a nation right now in Iraqi Kurdistan, just semi-autonomous. And look at it's Oasis protecting the Kurds, the Yazidis, the Christians, other minorities, even Arabs, protecting them as well.
Right. I just don't know how they could argue against it, Doctor.
Well, that's a good question, and we go back to the State Department and its leadership under John Kerry and his boss, President Obama. Right. They have consistently tried to support the radical Islamist, political Islam, the Muslim Brotherhood, and the group that they maintain the status quo, whether supported by Arab petro state like Saudi Arabia, right, where women cannot even have a right to show her face, to Turkey, where today never helped American, and they collect billions of tax dollars from the U.S.
No question. Dr. Sherko Abbas, I'm out of time, but listen, thank you very, very much. I appreciate you pulling over on the side of the road and taking some time with us. And folks, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River in Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake.